Hello friends, welcome back to the Selenium tutorials. In this tutorial we would learn how to configure Selenium WebDriver with Intellij. Up till now we were using Eclipse IDE. Nowadays Intellij has gained a lot of popularity, so let's go ahead and learn how to configure Intellij with Selenium WebDriver. So the first step would be to download Intellij. You would be able to download Intellij from this website. Here it is, www.jetbrains.com, idea download, and section equal to Windows if you are using a Windows system, or else you would have the options of Mac and Linux as well. You could see over here on your screens that there are two versions. One is the ultimate version, which is a paid version. You'll get a free trial, but it will expire after some time, and here you have a free open source version of it. So I'll go ahead and download the free open source version. So I'll just click this download button to get the download of Intellij started. So the download has started. You could see on the left hand side it is getting downloaded. It will take few minutes. We'll wait for some time. So when the download would get completed, it would be available in your downloads folder. If you see the download folders here, this thing IDLC 2017 3.5, this file is available over here. So what we'll do is, like, we'll just double click over here, and this installation wizard will come up. You have to just click on this next button. This is the destination folder where this Intellij would be getting installed. It is up to you. You could just install it anywhere in your system, or you could just download on the default location. It is up to you. I am not changing the location. I am just clicking on the next button. On this screen it is asking for which kind of launcher, 64-bit or 32-bit. It depends on your system. I am using a 64-bit system, so I am selecting this option. Below are the associations with, like, it is asking for Java, Groovy or KT. For our examples we would be using Java, so I am selecting only this. It is up to you. You could select all as well. For now I am just selecting Java, and since I am using a 64-bit system, I am using a 64-bit launcher. If you are unsure whether the system is 64-bit or 32-bit, I would suggest that go for 32-bit, so that it will work on both 64 and 32-bit systems. Now I'll select next button, and now finally click on the install button. And if you see, the installation has started. It will take some time for the installation to get completed. So as you can see here, the installation has completed. There it is showing us an option to start the Intellij Community Edition. I'm just clicking on it, and I'm clicking on the finish button. So since this was the first time I was downloading and installing Intellij, it is asking me for these options, whether I want to import settings from a previous version. So I do not want to do that, so I'm just selecting this option, do not import any settings, and I'm clicking on the OK button. After a few seconds you'll come up with this user license agreement. Please make sure that you scroll towards the bottom. Like on the right hand side we have a small scroller. Make sure that you scroll towards the bottom, else what will happen is, like, the accept button below will not get enabled. So once you scroll to the bottom, it will get enabled. It is already enabled over here, so I am just clicking on accept. So this will accept the license agreement. I click on accept. On the next screen, like, these are the data sharing options. It's up to you whether you want to send statistics to JetBrains. So if you want to do that, you could just select this option. I am not selecting for right now, and I am just clicking on the OK button. So here you are. Here it is asking for a UI theme. Like, it is showing two themes. One is the Intellij theme, which is like of a white background, and a Dracula theme, which is of a black background. I prefer the white background, so I'm selecting Intellij. It is up to you. Whichever option you consider it more easy to use, you could select that option. I'm selecting Intellij and clicking on the next default plugins button. On the next screen, I'm doing nothing. I'm just clicking on the next button, next featured plugins button. I'm just clicking over there. So we'll come up with the next featured plugins screen. So here it is giving us few options, like if you wish to install Scala, Idea VM or ID Features Trainer. For Selenium automation we do not require these things, so I'm just not installing any of these, and I am clicking the start using Intellij Idea, the button towards the bottom right, to get Intellij started. So I'm clicking on that button, and if you see, Intellij Idea Community Edition is launching. So here you go. Here you have the option of creating a new project or importing any project. So since it is the first time I'm using it, I'll select create new project. On this window, if you would see on the left hand side, by default Java is selected. We would be using Java programming language for Selenium automation. Here there are few additional libraries and frameworks which we do not require right now, so I am not selecting any of these options. I am just clicking on the next button over here. So when I click the next button, it is showing me this warning message, like it is asking me to associate the project with the SDK assigned. So here what we'll do is we'll click no if you have clicked the next button, because we need to associate the SDK. So here I am just closing this window, and if you see on the top here, project SDK, it is an option available over here, and it is giving us a link to download JDK. Since Java would run on the default JDK, we need to have JDK in our system. So by default I have my JDK already installed. We have JDK in my system. I'm not clicking download JDK. If you do not have JDK is a prerequisite. In our previous tutorials we have seen how to download, configure JDK, so I'm not explaining how to download and configure JDK over here, but I am just assuming you have JDK installed in your system. As I have, you should know where your JDK is installed. So in my case, the JDK is installed in this path, C program files Java JDK 1.8.0. this is the version of JDK which I have in my system. So what I'll do is I'll click on this new button and navigate to that path. So my path goes like this. I've just pasted the location, so by default it has taken me to JDK 1.8.0.1. so this was the location where my JDK was installed in my system. You should know where your JDK is installed and just select that path over here. Once this is done, click on the OK button, and now click on the next button. On the next screen, it is giving us an option to create a project from a template. If you just click over here, on the bottom you could see it is just a simple Java application that includes a class with a main method. So I would suggest that select this option, create project from template, and then click on the next button. On the next window you have to give the project name. You could give any project name of your choice. Since we are doing Selenium, I'll give this project as test Selenium underscore project. The next is the project location. So by default it has given some location, so it is up to you where you want to save your project. So I do not want to use the default location, I want to save it somewhere else. So what I can do, I could use the browse button over here. Click this browse button. I don't want to store it in C drive. I go to my F drive, expand it, here I have a folder Intellij for Selenium. You could create any folder in your local drive, and I am finally clicking on the OK button. The third option asks for your base package, like this is the package name which you wish to write. So here you should give a unique name, like I am giving the name as com.selenium underscore for Intellij. Any name of your choice, you could mention it over here in the base package, and finally we'll click on the finish button. So as you can see, it is getting the project setup ready. It is loading few components, so it may take few seconds over here. So as you can see, it has launched the editor, and here you come across with this window which is giving you few tips. It is up to you. If you wish to see the tips, you could click on next tip or previous tip. I am just now unchecking show the tips on startup so that this window would not appear again. If you wish to see tips, you should keep this on. And finally I am clicking the close button. So here by default it has created the class, because we had selected that option earlier to create a class with a default main method, so which is available here. It has already created this class in our project. This is our project, Intellij for Selenium. This is the location of our project. If you just expand it, it has this source folder, and this is the class which we are referring to, the main.java, because by default it has created because of the option which we selected during the setup. So now here what we'll do is we'll just write a single line of Java code to check whether all the installation and configuration which we have done up to now is correct or not. So just a simple line of code I am writing over here to just print out hello, and I'll just execute this program to check whether everything is in place and we have correctly configured and installed Intellij. So what I'll do is, like, here we have the option, the run option on the top. I click over there and I select run main, because this is the main.java file. So I click over here and let's see what happens. So below you could see something is building. It is trying to compile it. Here it has successfully compiled, and you could see over here, I'm just highlighting, it has printed hello, which means our setup of Intellij is correctly done. The Java path which we set during setup, that was also correct, because of which it has correctly compiled the Java code and it has executed, and it is showing hello on the console. Now this was the first part where we have installed and configured Intellij, but our intention is to use Intellij with Selenium WebDriver. So how to configure Intellij with Selenium WebDriver, we'll learn that now. So without wasting any time, we'll start that. So for configuring Selenium WebDriver with Intellij, you will need the Selenium jar files. So we have the standard website seleniumhq.org, from where you would get the jar files, seleniumhq.org/download, and here if you would just navigate a bit below, then you would find the different languages and their associated files. So here we are using Java. I have just highlighted over here, and here the latest version which is available is 3.11.0. so when you click this download link over here, these jar files would get downloaded into your system and it would be available in your download folder. Since when I downloaded, I got the version 3.10. I'll just show you. In my downloads folder here, you could see the version as 3.10 because I had downloaded the Selenium jar files a bit earlier, so it was 3.10. but if you download it now, then you will get it 3.11. you'll get this kind of a zip file. You could place the zip file anywhere in your folder, like it could be there in your downloads folder, but for ease of management, I have kept it in my F drive. This is the location where I have kept the Selenium Java jar files. Version is 3.10 because I had downloaded earlier. Here you have to just right click and unzip it. I have already unzipped it, and when you double click on this folder, then you will get these kind of files. You will have these two jar files, client combine 3.10 sources, and you'll have few files in the libs folder. Now the task is you need to configure these files onto Intellij. So make sure you have these jar files with you. Version will not matter, any version above 3 should work. I have 3.10. on the side you have 3.11, so that should not matter much. So now we'll learn how to configure these jar files on Intellij. So let's move back to Intellij. This is my Intellij editor. So on the Intelligent editor, go to file. Here you have something called project structure. Click over there within the project structure on the left hand side you will find few options. Go to the modules, the one which is highlighted. Go to modules. See, if I go to project, something of this kind of would be displayed, but I want to go to modules, so I click on modules. Within modules you have this option called dependency. Click on the dependencies tab here, and if you see carefully on the right hand side there is a green plus button. I repeat, a green plus button on the right hand side. Click on that plus button. Here you have options like what you want to do, jars or directories, library, module dependencies. So I'll select jars or directories. I click over here. Now here I have to mention the path where I have stored my jar files. So for me, my jar files are placed under F drive Selenium jars. If you would remember, under Selenium jars, the Selenium Java 3.10 folder. Here I have my jar files available with me, so I'll select the jar files, which here I have client combined and client combined sources. So I select both and click on OK button. I have few more jar files, so what I'll do, I'll again click on the plus button over here, again select jars or directories, navigate to the path, the same path where I have my jar files. As I told you, there is a libs folder as well, and there are a bunch of jar files within that as well, which we'll need. So I'll select all these files as well. So by clicking on the control key and individually selecting, I'm trying to select if I am able to select all the jar files together. So I selected this, and now I click on the OK button. So if you would see carefully, these files are now available in the project. So once these files are available over here, I'll click on apply and OK. When you click OK, you'll be back on the main screen, and if you would see in the project, you have something called external libraries. If you would just expand it, you will see all the jar files which we just configured into our project are available over here. So this means that we have integrated Selenium WebDriver jar files with the project on Intellij. So now we'll do is we'll execute a very small script to check whether this configuration of Intellij with Selenium WebDriver is working fine or not. So we'll just write a small script and just try to execute it. So just let's start doing that. So I'll write the code here. So the code is very familiar, you all must be very familiar. It is like WebDriver. So by default, this beautiful editor will give you options. Here you create object name could be anything. I'm writing obj is equal to new. I will execute it on Firefox, so I am selecting Firefox driver and semicolon. So if you see on the top, by default it has imported these jar files, like these dependencies, selenium.webdriver, selenium.firefox driver. As I wrote over here, this is the beautiful tool, this is the functionality of this beautiful tool which automatically imports the dependencies. And now on the next line, I'm just launching the browser. So here I'll give the URL, it is https anything. I'll go to google.com. Remember, after Selenium 3.0, we cannot directly execute Firefox driver if you are using Firefox 47 and above. I am using 55 if I am not wrong. So what I'll do, I have to set the system path to the Gecko driver. If you have forgotten this step, please refer to one of my previous tutorials where I have explained why we need to set this path of the Gecko driver. So here I am just copying this line and placing it over here. If I'll not include this line, the execution will not flow and it will throw an error. So here everything is ready. Now we are in a position to execute this script. We'll just run the script and see whether all our configurations are correctly done. So what I'll do, I'll go to this run and select run main. I'm clicking on this button and let's see what happens. So if you see below, it is showing parsing Java. Now it is trying to compile. So you could see the execution has begun. It has launched the Firefox browser and it has successfully navigated to google.com, which means all our steps, like from installation, downloading and installation of Intellij, then configuring Selenium WebDriver jar files onto the project, everything is complete and it is successful, and the piece of code which we have written over here is working fine. So this was how you configure Intellij with Selenium WebDriver. It is a beautiful tool. You could use this for your projects and get your execution done on Intellij.